Well, we are screaming through this letter from Paul to the Romans. Steve Ingold is here, and you took us from 9 through 10 through 11. Mm-hmm. I thought you were never going to stop. Not to say that it was long.
No,
I'm just saying there's a lot there.
I get it.
There's a lot there. Shoot. Hey, the theme that really came through today was that Paul really struggled with the mystery of how it all works, right? There's a real mystery around that. How do we, as followers of Jesus, embrace that mystery in a way that deepens our faith rather than kind of pulls us out of it and deconstructs it all, and like we walk away from it all?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like we have to get to a place where we understand that we won't understand everything. Like we can't know everything, and I think that's like so much of our faith over the years has been projected to us that like the best way for you to grow closer to Jesus is by knowledge and understanding and knowing all the things that you can possibly know. And there's definitely value in that. Like I don't want to demean that, but it becomes problematic when that becomes our whole focus and we start to try to wrap our mind around an unlimited God. That becomes super problematic. And so I think just being okay with like some of the most healthy, one of the most healthy phrases we can use in Christianity is, I don't know. Because it produces faith. It produces, and hopefully that faith produces hope instead of like fear, which I think oftentimes uncertainty and unknowing.
But let me ask that, because I'd say for a lot of us can just go ahead now and click on another video where there's actual full-on answers. And yes, we do know. And the Bible is clear. And the Bible is clear about this. So why are we as a church and many other churches, why are we kind of pulling away from that? Why do you feel that that's not helpful?
Because I don't think the Bible is clear. I mean, it's a 2,000-year-old text that's written in a specific context to a specific audience. And like, if there's any sin you want to commit, I can justify it and say, the Bible's clear. You can do that thing by working my way through this and exegeting it the way I want to. That's like we've talked before about rabbis having that saying of turn the gem, because there's 70 different ways to interpret any passage in Scripture. So if rabbis are saying this about the Old Covenant, Old Testament, and they're saying just turn the gem and the light will refract differently through that, and you'll have a different understanding, then I think it's probably arrogant and probably naive at the same time to say, no, I know exactly what this is saying.
But doesn't that go against what we hope to get to, and that's absolute truth, that there is an absolute truth out there? And so...
Yeah, I think if the quest, like Jesus didn't say, they'll know you're my disciple by the way you figure out truth and discern truth. Like one of the things, absolute truth is Jesus.
Yes.
Like that was a conversation with Pilate, and when Pilate, the question was posed, what is truth? And Jesus said, I am the truth and the way and the life. And that's like, even wrapping your mind around that, it's like, okay, explain that in a cognitive, logical way. Like it's not, you can't. So
Can
it's
you
like,
science me through that?
Yeah, you can't do that. So it's like, how do I put all my trust, all my hope, all my faith in Jesus, and allow that to inform the way I view the world? And the best way we understand through that is obviously the words and actions that we read about Jesus in Scripture. And we can come to conclusions about what Jesus would desire for us, and there's clarity there. But I think we spend a lot of time in the very minute details of things and put a lot of stock into those things, and it's just dangerous and harmful. So
dangerous and harmful.
It can be, yeah.
That's a big stake in the ground right there. Dangerous and harmful. Speaking of
there.
Stumbling blocks, you talked about Jesus, the Jews stumbling over the stumbling stone, Jesus. What are some modern day stumbling stones that you think we as believers, we might encounter and we could miss Jesus?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainty is one of them. We alluded to that during the sermon. I think I also talked a little bit about like when we know that we're right, if we're like fully certain that we're right, we start putting condemnation and judgment on other people, and it puts a barrier of it ends up leading to exclusivity instead of inclusivity. That's a huge barrier, is looking at other people as them. Objectification, like that's probably one of the biggest ones right now in our culture, at least, is these like tribal allegiances that we form that push other people out and keep other people out, as opposed to inviting everyone in.
So if holding on to hope, that's where you ended, holding on to hope amidst mystery, right? That's central to our faith. We're going to hold on to hope. What practical steps, perhaps, as somebody who's here today, who tuned in, who clicked on this link, and wants to hear, like, how do we remind ourselves of God's faithfulness when things really, really don't make sense?
Yeah, there's a couple ways, I think. There's, like, we read about this in the Old Testament of, like, the Israelites setting up these landmarks or pillars or things that really signify moments where God came through. And I think there's moments through our lives that we can look back and, like, God was faithful. And if God was faithful then, I know He'll be faithful now. And it may not look the way I hope or expect, but I have trust that God is going to prevail, and what God ultimately desires is what's going to come through. I think there's also an element of, I was just meeting with somebody yesterday, and he was asking almost that same question. So were you spying on me?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. I just gave him a prayer exercise, the palms up, palms down prayer exercise of, like, I'm going to release the things that I'm not certain of and give those over to God, and then receive, like, peace or clarity or whatever from God. And I think those are the moments where it's like, I can't know, but if I'm going to trust God, then I need to actively pursue conversation with God and intentional connection with God throughout the day, practicing the presence of God, understanding those things. I think there's comfort and peace that comes from that, and I don't think it's like a simple formula to get to that place, because, again, God's not limited by our understanding. So yeah, I think there's a wide range of approaches you can take, but for me, that's one of the things I like to do a lot, is just, all right, God, like, I'm releasing this stuff to you, and I want to receive your peace. I want to receive your clarity.
That's actually a really good first practical step. And like you said, it's not an easy thing. It's really all of our spiritual practice that we talk about here at Cornerstone put together. So we're trying to together make it possible for us to live in that type of truth. And let me put a question here on the screen that you can use to go a little further in exploring all these truths that Steve talked about. And we'll leave it up for a few minutes. And I want you to turn to someone, okay, and attempt to answer the question, or answer it in the chat, or with others who are attending church online with you, or throw it in a group text, or talk about it with friends, or write it at the top of the page for your journal entry today, okay? Here's the question. What is one area of your life where you need to trust God's faithfulness even when you don't have all the answers? I'll see you next time.